My husband, who was going on an overseas business trip, left with his daughter's passport in his possession. Where are you, honey?
We just landed in India, honey.
India? Oh, my lord. The sheer obviousness of the barefaced lie. It was at that very moment that everything fell into place, and I was determined to expose him for the treason he's responsible for. Just you wait, my sweet darling. You'll pay dearly and bitterly for this. Mark my words, I will not let you get away with your betrayal. My name is Avery, and I'm a 39-year-old part-time housewife who also runs an aesthetic salon. My husband, Simon, is 1 year older than me, and he's an ordinary employee who works for a company in the area of car sales. We're a family of 3, with a daughter, Taryn, who's just about to start her university life. Taryn was going to Mexico for her graduation trip the following week with her friends, and she was really looking forward to it. So much so that she just wouldn't shut up about it. But I was so happy for her. She finished high school as a straight A student and successfully enrolled in a high-ranked university in the country. I was happy that she did her best and that it was paid off and that she was going on to pursue her dreams, starting with an awesome trip. And then one day, out of the blue, my husband's company decided to send him on a business trip abroad.
It was a really sudden decision, honey. They evaluated my performance in the company, and apparently they liked what they saw. They should be, honestly. I've been working so damn hard. It's a huge promotion.
I can't believe how sudden it is to get an overseas assignment. Does that usually happen?
I've been working almost every day, with the exception of New Year's. It means they're paying attention to my efforts, and they acknowledge them with this opportunity.
Simon's been out of town pretty frequently for the past few months. His superiors praised him for all the hard work he's been doing, and they told him he deserved a better position. Well then, I should hurry up and get your stuff ready for the big trip.
Oh, thank you. You can just pack the bare minimum, hon. The company's provided almost everything I need, so...
Bare minimum, huh? So you're going to India, right? Then I guess all you need is a passport.
Oh yeah, right. A passport.
My daughter saw him as such, and she told me secretly. Dad doesn't seem nervous at all, even though he's going on this big business trip across the Atlantic. He really doesn't. It's like he's thinking he's going on a spa vacation or something like that. I started to get worried about my husband, thinking he wouldn't be able to do his job properly in such a new and exotic environment. Fast forward to the next morning. Simon packed some more things before bursting outside of the house with great enthusiasm. He would be gone for 2 weeks starting that day. And the following week, Taryn is going on her graduation trip to Mexico. Are you ready for the trip, sweetheart? Yes, I am, Mom. I can't believe it. I'll be in Mexico next week. Exciting, isn't it? I remember the first time I went abroad. I was probably as excited as you are right now. Only you have to stay behind because of work. Thanks for everything, Mom. You're also the reason I'm able to go on my graduation trip. No. Don't you dare make it sound like you're leaving the nest just yet. You worked so hard on my studies. And consider this trip a congratulations from me, and a symbol of how proud I am of you. I hope you have fun, because I know I'll be happy if you are. That evening, after work, I got a call from my older brother, Idris, as I walked in the front door. He wanted to give his niece a memento for her trip to Mexico. Idris works for a travel agency, and he was the one who also arranged for Taryn's graduation trip. Hey Taryn, your Uncle Idris is coming over in a couple of minutes. He said he wanted to give you something special. Is he really? I'm so happy he is. I want to ask so many things about traveling abroad, for real. Idris arrived perhaps 5 minutes later. He gave his niece an allowance as a parting gift. The term he used over the phone, memento, was pretty much a ruse to throw me off, I realized. As usual, my older brother found another way to tease me inadvertently. Well, I can't believe how much you gave her. Thank you, Idris. And what do you say to your kind Uncle Taryn? Thank you, Uncle.
Mexico is really close globally, but it's beyond our borders. In any case, be careful when you go there. And be especially careful with your passport, sweetie. Got it?
I'll be fine. I keep my passport in a drawer with a lock that can only be opened with a key hidden somewhere in the room. Nothing to worry about. That's what she said as she opened the very drawer where she kept her passport. But then, she let out a blood-curdling scream. No way! My passport's gone! Idris and I looked in the drawer, dumbstruck. Lo and behold, Taryn's passport was nowhere to be found. In its place was my husband's passport. This is Dad's passport! Oh no, this is a disaster. I gave him your passport by accident. I should have checked whose it was. Oh no. What do we do now, Mom? Dad's already gone to India!
Simon's gone to India? Avery, could you back up a little and explain to me what's going on with him?
It's an overseas business trip, Idris. It was a very sudden decision his job made, and he just left this morning. Oh, what am I gonna do? He's not answering his phone, probably because he's already on the plane. I tried calling my husband to no avail. He won't answer, nor will he return my calls. But how could I do such a stupid thing? Taryn is so upset. She's as pale as a piece of melted mozzarella. My brother was the only one who was calm and composed.
Both of you, calm down. Does Simon really go abroad on a business trip?
Yes, he did.
No one can go to America without their own passport.
Oh, wait. Are you kidding me? That's right. You just made everything so much better, Idris. Taryn, sweetheart, let's go to your room for a bit. I need to talk to you. Idris, you know how to work the espresso machine in the kitchen, and there's some apple pie in the fridge. If you want to help yourself, please. Idris nodded his head and strode to the kitchen. Taryn looked at me anxiously, and we remained silent until the door to her room was closed. I think your father was lying about the trip to India all along. Yeah, I guess he was. Don't worry about anything, sweetheart. You stay here while I go talk to Uncle Idris, all right? I'll call you when we're done. Her eye suggested she sensed something was wrong. She nodded in silence and sat down in her chair, turned on her laptop, and started reading one of her ebooks. I closed the door behind me, and I find Idris in the kitchen, cutting a small slice of apple pie.
How is the poor dear?
She seems anxious, and now that she knows her own father's been lying to her, she seems sad.
I see. I know it's pretty hard for you too, personally. But the most important thing right now is to get her passport back.
Yeah, I know. Thanks to my brother's logic, I was now convinced that everything my husband's been telling us about this trip overseas is a lie. All this implied he must be traveling around the country behind our backs.
Do you have his computer? Let's have a look and see if we can find any clues.
My husband used the family shared desktop computer at home. I mean, it is a family computer, Idris. I doubt he'd leave any evidence behind. Despite my concerns, he told me it wouldn't hurt to try, and he proceeded to expertly go through the internet search history and all the files in the trash bin.
So apparently he was planning a boat trip to Bellingham, Washington, for some reason, on the Alaska Marine Highway System.
A boat trip to Bellingham. I wonder if he's with anyone. To be quite honest with you, I already had a growing suspicion that he was cheating on me.
There's also a search history here of luxury hotels in San Francisco. All of those he checked or deals with suite rooms.
At that, I felt my body start to shake and tremble with rage. A suite room means my husband is with that woman whom he's cheating on me with. He betrayed his own wife and lied to his own daughter. So the two of them are in one of these hotels by now, eh?
Relax, Avery. We're not in Bellingham yet.
According to Idris, if they were taking a boat to Bellingham, my husband and his lover would leave the port of Ketchikan later that evening, bound for Bellingham. To retrieve Taryn's passport from her father, who was on a boat in the Gulf of Alaska, seemed impossible. Hopelessness and anger enveloped me and left me in turmoil. What on earth can I do? Simon won't even pick up the phone.
He or they won't reach the port of Bellingham until tomorrow evening, Avery. Depending on what you're prepared to do, it's still possible to ambush them there, on deck, so to speak.
Depending on what I'm prepared to do?
That's right. Looks like Simon's been taking advantage of every Saturday and Sunday to stay in suite rooms. Look, there's even this table of reservations here in the trash folder. You see? You work on weekends, don't you?
Oh no. I've always thought he worked on weekends every week. Don't tell me he's been betraying me long before this particular occasion.
I'm sorry, my dear sister, but it does look exactly what you fear. Getting Taryn's passport back from her father has now become something worse with very dire consequences. You're going to expose his infidelity. You ready to do that?
I made up my mind right away. I couldn't leave Taryn heartbroken and abandoned while all of her friends were on this trip to Mexico. I've made up my mind. I'm going to expose that bastard's lies and get my daughter's passport back if it's the last thing I do. Idris nodded calmly and patted my head. He then arranged a quick flight on his own cell phone, and the very next morning, I was on a plane bound for Bellingham. Before I left, I told my daughter, "I will bring back your passport, sweetheart. Don't you worry about a thing. And you take it easy too, Mom, okay? Promise me that? You're far more important to me than any number of stupid trips." Perhaps my daughter had also made up her mind in her own way, because her expression was cheerful. Idris unfortunately couldn't go because of his work, but he does have a friend from his college days who's now a lawyer in Seattle. He contacted me and arranged for us to meet at the airport. In the event my husband having an affair was confirmed with any smidge of doubt, I'd made up my mind to divorce him as soon as possible. The next day, I arrived in Bellingham before noon. I met my brother's friend, Mr. Gralsey, at Bellingham International Airport.
Miss Avery, I presume. It's very nice to meet you. Idris told me everything he knew about your situation. I'm looking forward to working with you today.
This young lawyer, from what I heard, mostly handled travel-related problems, but on rare occasions, he's also had experiences with traveling people with illegitimate reasons, such as love affairs, among a few others I couldn't understand.
In a situation where we don't know if your husband was accompanied by a woman or not, I recommend not to be careless with phone calls. Your husband and his companion, should they exist, will eventually take precautionary measures to throw you off.
I see.
Additionally, I strongly recommend not telling your husband about the fact you have a lawyer. That act should be refrained until after we have solid evidence of an affair.
Solid evidence? How does one obtain such evidence? Mr. Grizzoli told me what evidence was necessary to conclusively ascertain if the affair is legitimate or not, as well as some potential was and how to obtain the evidence. We negotiated a plan to get said evidence, and it seemed to be very solid. Simon was taking a ferry, and he was arriving at the port of Bellingham that very evening. The battle with my husband is going to be a one-shot deal. The location? Port of Bellingham. When the time of the ferry's arrival approached, my lawyer and I waited in a secluded area at Port of Bellingham, but close enough to recognize the faces of all the tourists that were getting off the boat. And then, lo and behold, in the arrival lobby was my husband, Simon, arm in arm with a young woman. Here we are at last. It's so warm down here in Washington.
That's true. It is pretty warm. Well, we can take it easy for the next couple of weeks. We can stretch our wings, relax, and have the time of our lives. Because we deserve it. For real.
I'm so happy, darling. Oh, Simon, I really hope we do a lot of shopping. I relentlessly suppressed the overflowing fury within my gut and took a photograph of them walking arm in arm. They sat themselves down in their rival's lobby, and my lawyer, who was casually pretending to read a magazine, gave me his signal, and I quietly crept up to them and sat on the chair behind them, my back facing them. I pressed the record button on the voice recorder. I then proceeded to pretend to look at a California brochure. Hey, are we going to the hotel now?
Yeah, I guess so. I can't wait to get back to the hotel and get some rest, I'll be honest.
Let's go shopping first, please.
God damn, you really like to go shopping, don't you, Heather? Wonder if my wallet's gonna hold up.
Oh, come on. Don't be mean to me. Even I've been holding back for a long time, you know. Because to you, I've always been second best. You have that beautiful wife of yours after all.
What are you talking about? I love you. And only you. Heather, you always come first. And nothing about that is ever gonna change.
Do you really love me more than your wife? Look me in the eyes and tell me the truth.
Of course I do, my darling. So come on, let's go to the hotel. And I'll prove to you how much I love you.
Oh my, I love that idea. I resisted the overwhelming urge to turn around and punch them both in their stupid faces. I pressed another button on the voice recorder and made sure I walked away with multiple people who were just getting up themselves. This woman knew that Simon is married, and yet she's still together with him. I had obtained solid evidence of that truth. I left the scene with my lawyer at my side, walked into a nearby cafe, and checked the photos and audio recordings.
Looks like you could easily enroll in detective school, Miss Avery. Got evidence more solid than anything I've ever seen before. This conclusively deems your husband guilty of adultery, and the proceedings for divorce will be very smooth.
Okay, awesome. I have something to say to those two, so if you'll excuse me a moment.
Oh, Miss Avery, I must advise against that, ma'am. Ma'am, it's not...
I paid no heed to Mr. Grizzoli, who was trying to stop me. I approached from behind them as I called my husband's phone. Where are you, honey?
Oh, we just landed in India, honey.
India? Oh, my lord. The sheer obviousness of that barefaced lie. Well then, I guess we're in Indian port right now. I stood right behind him, close enough that he could feel my erratic breath down his neck. He finally noticed a presence behind him, but he didn't even turn around. He just froze. My husband's hand was shaking as he held his phone.
What are you doing here?
Still talking into his phone, I see. I said to my husband, "You took Taryn's passport by accident, honey. Give that back to me first, and then we can talk about what I see before me." The woman, whom he was having an affair with, called Heather, has her mouth hanging open like I shocked her jaw out of its socket. God, how I wished I hit her, truly. Simon, dear, why did you come with your wife? I didn't ask for this.
Hey, shut up for a second. Yeah, about this lady here. I met her by chance there on the ferry.
What the hell are you talking about? Even now, when all hope was indeed lost, my husband was still attempting to come up with ridiculous excuses to prove his innocence. Forget it, Mr. Lorenzo. Just give me Terrence's passport back.
Oh, damn. This is Terrence's passport. My bad.
My bad? My sweet frickin' ass, bucko. Hurry up and give it back to me. I knew it. He really did have our daughter's passport with him, because he was actually traveling domestically. He never thought to check it at all. I was relieved for a split second, because I successfully got her passport back.
Then does Taryn know about this?
Does Tara know about this? Of course she does! She found your passport instead of her own when she opened up the drawer where she kept hers. Can you even imagine how shocked she was? The poor girl nearly shit her pants. She was so panicked.
Oh no, oh my god, please listen, this is all a bit of a misunderstanding. My business trip to India was canceled last minute and...
Oh, is that so? Give me any conceivable reason why you're here alone with this woman. We're getting a divorce.
Avery, listen to me please, I love you. And you only. I can't divorce you, and I will die trying to defend what we have.
By this point, I was completely mortified. And then, the woman named Heather started ranting and raving. "What are you talking about, Simon? You said you'd divorce her anytime." And then she looked directly at me and said, "Hey, you. Simon is freaking sick of being married to an old gas bag like you. He's made love to me every week, you know. Simon wants a young, beautiful woman like me. You're nothing but a pathetic..."
Hey, stop it!
Simon slapped her cheek. Heather was stunned, having been smacked by her own lover on the cheek. Then, she started to pathetically cry. "What was that for? You told me yourself, Simon. You looked into my eyes and told me you loved me more than anyone else in the world. You told me you'd make me the manager of that beauty salon your stupid hag runs."
Avery, look at me. Everything she is saying is a lie. She's trying to tear our relationship apart.
And here I was, thinking Simon couldn't possibly get any lower than this. But in addition to cheating on me with another woman, when confronted, he was willing to completely destroy her integrity and let her be ground up to pieces under the bus to which she was thrown. And he devastated this woman he truly loves for the sake of our failed relationship, disillusioned me to the core. "I'm frickin' done. I'm divorcing you. As for the alimony, I'm gonna charge you more than the normal rate."
What? Why? We've been together for 20 years.
20 years? 20 frickin' years wasted on a soulless piece of sludge like you. So help me Satan, I'll charge you 20 times the conventional amount of alimony.
Shut the frick up.
Me? Me shut up? Who the hell do you think you are? I was about to punch my husband in the face when a strong hand caught my wrist before I could get the chance. I turned to where the hand came from and found Mr. Grizzoli standing there. In retrospect, I'm thankful he stopped me from punching Simon.
All right, then. That'll be enough of that.
Before I even knew it, we were the center of attention in the arrival lobby. I left the scene, leaving my lawyer to do the rest. The following week, my daughter Taryn was able to go on her long-awaited trip to Mexico without any further problems. I told her that she had her own life and that she wasn't to fret over the situation with her parents. Her trip was meant for her to get away from home for a bit, enjoy the freedom of her life, and start focusing her mind on university later on. My brother, Idris, who was sweet on his darling niece, presented her with a luxury option at her destination as another gift. What a surprise! He got her tickets to see her favorite rock group in Cancun. All in all, she was able to fully enjoy her graduation trip, and she came home after a week all smiles and quite tanned, I must admit. I divorced my husband very soon after the little scene we had in Bellingham. I filed for alimony against my husband and the woman whom he was having an affair with. It wasn't 20 times the market rate, but my lawyer handled the case well, so my psychological stress thankfully remained at a minimal level. My husband lied to the company that he was going on vacation with his wife, and that became a little rumor that spread like wildfire around company employees. His superiors eventually found out as well, and it became increasingly difficult for him to stay at work. As a result, his job moved him to a branch in the countryside. As for the woman whom he was having an affair with, Heather, she was apparently a staff member at a men's beauty salon that Simon frequented. Apparently, my ex-husband had lied to her about him being the owner of my beauty salon. He used that as a means to seduce her, and she quickly fell head over heels. After I divorced him, he seemed to have married Heather, but because they were in up to their ears in debt, the arguments and the fights knew no determinable end, and their relationship quickly became strained beyond anything nice and cozy. Heather eventually had enough, and she left Simon. As for me, after the whole fiasco, I continued to work hard at my aesthetics salon. My hard work paid off after a few months, and I was able to open a small branch closer downtown. I don't think I'll ever get married again, but I will spend my time as a bachelorette in the most meaningful ways I can think of. And my daughter's starting university soon, as I mentioned, and I promise I'm going to do what I can to support her through what is undoubtedly the most influential time in her life. Wish us luck, everyone!